This week, a jury of United Methodist clergy found one of their own, the Reverend Frank Schaeffer, guilty of breaking his vows in connection with the longtime Lebanon, Pennsylvania pastor having performed a same-sex marriage ceremony for his son. The sentence is a 30-day suspension with some strings attached. Even as several similar cases were working their way through the United Methodist judicial system, other clergy and congregations within the denomination are openly challenging the church's position on marriage equality. Perhaps the most visible was the November 9th wedding of two longtime male members of Arch Street United Methodist Church in Philadelphia, with 36 of the denomination's clergy officiating. Joining me now is the pastor of Arch Street, the Reverend Robin Hynicka, who led that November 9th ceremony. Reverend Hynicka, I know it's been a busy week. Welcome to State of Belief Radio.
Thank you very much.
Ministry to LGBT persons is something that a number of mainline denominations are struggling with, as you know. So if you would, just briefly describe the United Methodist Church's official position on same-gender marriage.
Our official position is stated and represented in what we call our Book of Discipline. The Book of Discipline is the place where official statements around social issues, as well as how we organize ourselves, both internally to the church and externally to the world. It is the book that guides us to be evident and unified in our work as the United Methodist Church. It is a living document, though. It is a document that gets amended and changed every 4 years at our general conference, which, when convened, has a little under 1,000 delegates, equal numbers of delegates being lay and clergy, and everything and anything that's in that Book of Discipline is open for change.
Mm-hmm. And you all have already, as the Methodist Church, have revisited this issue of same-gender marriage, and so far it hasn't been changed, right?
That's correct.
When I read about the ceremony...
What's even more important to understand is not only have we tried to change it, but we've even tried to have language included in the discipline that would say that we're a church that is divided on this issue, and that good people on both sides of this question can coexist within our denomination. Mm-hmm. And even that kind of statement has been rejected.
I wish you would talk about that extraordinary ceremony held in your church on November the 9th.
Right. It was a matter of pastoral conscience. It was an act of providing the liturgy of the church, the Christian marriage ceremony, to a long-time, loving, committed couple who just happened to be of the same gender. Two men, 20-year members of Arch Street United Methodist Church, one of whom was very seriously ill a year ago, and while he was contemplating his life, requested that, if at all possible at some point, he would love to be married to his 20-year partner, a 25-year partner, and he would love to be married in the church that he loves. And little did we know that we'd be able to make that dream come true. And as I said in my homily that day, he could have been wanting to do anything. Mm-hmm. He could have wanted to say, "Dear God, make me straight so I'll go to heaven." Mm-hmm. But he didn't. He said, "Let me celebrate the love that I know and the person that God made me to be, and let me do it in my church." And that is at the center of what we did on November 9th. Headlines have said that we were defying the church. That is not true. Mm-hmm. We were offering the liturgy and the ceremony and the welcome of the church to fully include a gay couple into the worship of our church.
Did you put the service together yourself?
I was assisted with several other clergy, and yes, I worked with Bill and Rick, the couple, to design the service as they had wished, as well as our music director and musician.
Yeah.
Like
Robin,
I would do any wedding.
Sure. Robin, I am a pastor myself, and so I am sensing the compassion that I hear in your voice for those two guys and for their desire to have the church bless their relationship. Thinking of myself in your situation, I think compassion would be there. I also think anger would be there in me. I don't know whether that's true for you or not, but is it a mixture of feelings about love for your denomination and also anger at their reticence to move forward?
I don't know. I don't know if anger is the
word.
Is the word for me. I think I am angry at times. I am frustrated at times. I have a mixture of emotions.
Sure.
But the motivating factor for that wedding on the 9th of November was the love and compassion I saw in one of my clergy colleagues, Frank Schaefer, for his own son and his own family.
Yeah.
And everything we did was not motivated by anger at the church or anger at any wing of the church, but at our motivation was the love and the grace of God that we believe is all-encompassing and all-inclusive. Yeah. The service itself was a celebration of love, God's love, redeeming, God's welcoming, God's gracious love to every and all people. That's what was the message that we were sending. I'm
not at all surprised of that. At that, listening to the tone of your voice, and again hearing the compassion you feel. There were other clergy standing with you, endorsing that. What is the real risk that the officiating clergy members were taking by being there?
The same risk that Frank Schaefer faced going into his trial, the same risk that he faced in his decision to perform the same-gender marriage ceremony for his son. We risk receiving, being the object of a complaint, and entering into that process for a supervisory process, and then beyond that, a charge that we violated the discipline. One of the, I think, the tragedies of the trial that we just witnessed was that it was so narrowly focused. No one was allowed to really open up the entire document of the Book of Discipline. There are, inconsistencies there, and there are opportunities to demonstrate good pastoral care, even in the midst of what others would say is a violation of the discipline.
Right.
It's really a very it was a missed opportunity in many respects, because it could have been an opportunity for real dialogue as opposed to simple ecclesiastical judgment and justice.
Right.
Justice was not served, but ecclesiastical judgment. It could have been an opportunity for the trial court to, among themselves, talk about how this might be a restorative justice opportunity. In fact, the witness, Janet Wolf, was so beautifully articulated how the church could have operated in this, and they missed an opportunity to do that.
Am I right? I mean, I got this implicitly, not explicitly, but if a same-gender marriage takes place with Methodist clergy presiding, is it let alone unless there is a specific complaint?
A complaint must be filed.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's let alone. I mean, there may be some other process that could take place. But in terms of going to a trial or getting to the point where we were with Frank Schaefer, unless a complaint is filed, there may be some other conversations, but there would be no reason for any discipline or for any other action.
Mm-hmm. I know that you were able to be at least at one day of the trial, and family illness kept you from the other day. What was that like?
It was surreal. I mean, to me, it was anachronistic.
Yeah.
Archaic, really, is the word, not anachronistic. Archaic. It just seemed like haven't we grown from this? We've learned new ways. I mean, we look at the world and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa and restorative justice that the Mennonites and others practice. We've come so far from just simple, straightforward, oh, you broke a rule and you need to be punished for that. We should be well beyond that. Yeah. And for me, that was the real tragedy of that. We didn't call upon the wisdom and the tradition that Methodists say we can call upon to really allow the Holy Spirit to move through a situation like that.
Yeah.
We just took the low road and said, just the facts, and don't even think or talk or live into why the facts are the way they are.
As I understand it, the 30-day suspicion, let me say it again. As I understand it, the 30-day suspension given to Reverend Schaefer also requires that he renounce his position on inclusive marriage. Am I right that he has said that he will stand his ground?
My understanding is that unless he states unequivocally that he can keep the entire book of discipline, then he is being asked to surrender his orders. That's what I understand the verdict to be. There will be a lot of discussion and interpretation of all of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well,
it seems to me cruel and unusual punishment in that they're asking him to surrender his orders.
Right. I'm not taking issue with the Methodist Church because my denomination's not real good on this either, but it would seem, I think, that a denomination would not want a pastor in their midst that held a conviction that led him to stand for trial and then, because they told him to, changed his mind.
Yeah, it just seems to be very confusing.
How can this change?
Oh, I think it changes by what we did on the 9th. I think we have to create a grassroots movement. I think laity and clergy and community supporters and allies really need just to make it clear that in our context, especially the context of a center city congregation like mine, we need to take the context into consideration.
Yeah.
The other thing is we need to really debate and answer and talk about what's really at the root of this, and that is the great divide and division, not only in our church but in all communities,
right,
about homosexuality or one's gender identity or sexual orientation, because it's clear that the prosecuting side of all of this holds the belief and the unwavering belief that homosexuality is a sin, right, whereas I believe that one's sexual orientation, homosexuality, is part of our very being. It's part of our creative nature. It's who God made us.
Yeah.
And so that's the real question. Do you believe it's sin, or do you believe it's a part of who people truly are by God's making at their birth? And until we are honest enough to ask that question and create what I would call a biased balance, see, part of what I would challenge the trial court, was there a biased balance there? Because the right question, I think, at the outset probably wasn't asked. if the question was, do you believe homosexuality is a sin, or do you believe a person's sexual orientation is a gift from God?
Yeah.
And I think if we can honestly start at that place, we know where people are. That's why that prohibition is in the discipline, because those who think that homosexuality is a sin have been able to muster enough votes to make that statement be there. Mm-hmm. The rest of us who have followed medical science, have seen psychiatry, move homosexuality away from a disorder into a natural part of a person's being. I mean, all of science and all of our experience at this point. Even Governor Christie in New Jersey is saying, conversion therapy is really not healthy. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
And it's harmful. So, part of that is where this discussion has to get. And we're not going to get there in legislative sessions and sections because folks just want to cut conversation. Sure. We need to create conversation. And that's what the wedding did. The wedding created more conversation and has allowed folks who have been relegated to the wings and to the shadows of the church to come out and say, I believe that you're doing the right thing.
Reverend Hynicka, one other question. Just imagine that in some situation you're sitting with a family member or a member of your congregation who opposes marriage equality in the church, and they say, why is this so terribly important to you? How do you answer that?
Well, I based on my experience with in pastoral experience with folks who have come out to me over the years, over my 35 years of ministry, beginning in college, where friends in college came out and spoke of the isolation and the fear and the heartache that they feared they were giving their parents and giving their friends. And watching and living out and watching folks and pastoring and living out my friendships and my pastoral care over these years, and just seeing people work hard at trying to make change or to hide and to be behind closed doors, and just seeing them blossom when they were able to accept themselves for who God had made them to be. It's based on my experience. It's based on my understanding of good medical science and good psychological science. It's based on my reading of Scripture.
Sure.
I believe God is love. And Jesus spoke more about greed and how we misuse our resources than he ever spoke about this topic. Never spoke about this topic. And if someone disagrees with me, for me, I say to them, this is how I've come to this conclusion. And I give them some very specific examples about people I've known along the way. And I said, this is why I believe. But if you don't believe the way I do, that's fine with me. I can still be your pastor. I can still love you. But if that's a deal breaker for you to be under my leadership or to be in this church, then let me help you find a place where you can get the pastoral care you want and worship the way you need to worship at this point in your life. I am not going to hold you back. I am not going to condemn you for being where you are, but I need you to know where I am. And in fact, every person who comes to me in seeking membership, we have that conversation up front so they know exactly where I am. And if it's not a deal breaker for them, even if they disagree with me, we welcome each other with open arms and we go about our way and do God's work.
The Reverend Robin Hynicka is pastor of Arch Street United Methodist Church in Philadelphia. Even as the issue of marriage equality painfully divides the denomination, he recently officiated a wedding of two men at his church that was co-officiated by over 50 fellow clergy members. Reverend Hynicka, I want you to know that you have admirers and supporters, and your integrity is self-evident in the words you say and in the actions you take. I really do appreciate you being with us today. Let me say, the church website offers a moving statement on why they chose to do what they did, and we'll link to that website from stateofbelief.com.
Great.
Sir, thank you so much for being with us.
Time. I appreciate your support, and my prayers are with you. Continue to offer the grace of God to everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.